and good evening, church. Glad to see you all here tonight as we continue our discussion groups, and we're going through talking about the encounters with Jesus that occur in the book of John. This week, we're in John chapter 13 as we deal with the filthy. And what a beautiful image we have on the screen, which could give you some indicator of what we're going into tonight. Now, I know some of you have a thing against feet, and you find them disgusting anyway. So I put up the most filthy and somewhat acceptable, but the temptation to put the most vile foot I could was there, and I fought it just for you. I assure you, it was just for you. Anyway, you ever had a family member or someone who builds something, a creator in your family? Maybe it's someone who makes quilts. Maybe that's you. Maybe it's you've got to watch someone in your family build a deck, or your uncles put up a barn. You create something. Maybe someone writes or paints pictures. You ever got to witness that process? There's a point where you may have access to it and you see kind of what they're doing, and you get a little bit more as time goes on, and you see the progress, and it starts coming into full view what exactly it's going to be. That's kind of where we are at this point in Jesus' work on earth. Obviously, he knows what's going to happen, and John makes that pretty apparent in John chapter 13, and he tells us that. But the disciples themselves, they're just getting a fuller and fuller and fuller picture. But Jesus knows he's really close at this point to his death on the cross. He knows he's really close to his fulfillment of the plan of salvation that God has had ready to go throughout the centuries and centuries that he's revealed himself in the scriptures. He knows what it's going to look like. John, when he writes this, knows what it looked like at that point, but back when he was in the midst of it, he's still learning and developing them, and we're so close to that point. At this, we are in the moments that Jesus has made the triumphal entry, and he's gone into Jerusalem. We know it's a time period where things are about to really unfold, and so Jesus is going to bring a greater understanding of his plan and what this should look like to his disciples with a very humble and sacrificial act of washing their feet. The first three verses are incredible because John is opening up his theology of Jesus and his understanding, and it's packed full. Just in these three verses, a tremendous amount of Christianity. It says it's before the feast of the Passover, which harkens back to the time where God delivered the Israelites out of Egyptian slavery. When Jesus knew the hour, he knew that his hour had come and that he should depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he'd loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil, having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God. This is Jesus knowing exactly why he came, but he's seeing the end of his time here on earth is really, really close. And he loves the people that he'd been with, and he's going to love them all the way to the end. The fulfillment of this is imminent. But the opposition is active as well. The devil is active as well. And the betrayer is known at this particular point. Jesus knows where he has come from, and he knows exactly where he is going and what he's going to do. But the people around him need a fuller understanding. They need preparation for what's going to come. For sure, in the next couple of months, from the time that Jesus is going to die, he's going to be buried, he's going to be resurrected. And for sure, that 40 days afterwards, where he's going to prepare them by teaching them what they would need for the day of Pentecost and that time forward. They needed to see the full picture. And in this moment, this very humble thing that Jesus does, he's going to demonstrate, give an example, and then he's going to teach and give them an explanation. So here's how it unfolds. Picture yourself in the room at this moment in their situation. Jesus, he rose from supper and he laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter. And Peter said to him, "Lord, are you washing my feet?" And Jesus answered and said to him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this." And Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." And Jesus said to him, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, you are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet, taking his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, do you know what I've done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. So Jesus takes this moment to explain to his disciples what's going down by doing the example of washing their feet. And it seems to be going pretty well. But he comes to Peter. And Peter has this moment where he's really wrestling with what his perspective of what the Messiah, the Son of God, what his rabbi, his teacher, his Lord should be, versus how Jesus is showing him he actually is. He's got a perspective that he's holding on to of what Jesus should be, and then that comes into conflict with who Jesus is showing he actually is. And that creates this moment of tension, and it's all on Peter for this moment, because Jesus tells him, you don't understand right now, but you will. And isn't that so familiar with us? You ever watched a movie with someone where the plot isn't unfolding in the way they think it should, and they're like, I don't understand what's going on. Why are they doing this? What is happening in this movie? This movie's awful. And they completely run away from it. And you're thinking, if you would just sit through it, if you would just wait another 30 minutes, you'll understand what's happening here. Sometimes as a good student or listener, especially with Jesus as the teacher, you kind of just got to sit and be patient. And whatever perspectives you have, don't hold on to them, especially when they come in conflict with the teacher, the master teacher, Jesus. And that's the tension we have in this moment with Peter. He's given him this lesson that you've got to let go of how the world sees Jesus. You've got to let go of how anybody other than Jesus himself sees him or how Jesus presents himself. Let it go. Focus on how Jesus is revealing himself. And in this moment, at this time, Jesus is taking on the role of not the great teacher who should be lording above everybody else. And Jesus isn't coming with great pomp and circumstance. He's humbled himself. And he's gotten down and he's doing the work of a slave. He's gotten into the filth. And Jesus is so in this moment and so involved in the world and so involved with his disciples, who he loves, that he's willing to get his hands on the filth of their feet. It's a pretty personal and intimate thing to be doing. It's lowly work. But here's the Son of God doing lowly work. And he's trying to get Peter to understand no one is too good for this work. This is exactly the work that I came to do. And I'm going to do this humiliating work, this humble work, all the way to the cross. And you need to see that, Peter, because you got to do the same thing. And he's wanting us to see this at this moment because we got to do the same thing. Now, Peter doesn't understand it even in this particular moment because he tries to reply, but it's this overly exuberant thing. Well, Lord, wash all of me. And Jesus is almost like, tone it down, buddy. Tone it down. You don't need to take a whole bath. You don't need a whole bath. You're clean, but not all of you, because he's very aware of the circumstance. He sees the whole picture. But he's trying to draw them in to see it better as well as it's coming to its fulfillment. And so then after giving this example, he gives them the teaching. He says, what I've done, you're going to need to do as well. Be servants. Be servants. And I love how he ends this moment here. He says, if you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. The blessing doesn't come just because you know you're supposed to be a servant. The blessings of Christianity don't come just because you know about Christianity or you know about Jesus. It comes when you do it, when you fulfill, when you take on the role of a servant. Sure, from the world's perspective, this thing that's going to take place, the sin's going to be conquered, that God is going to reign supreme. We have ideas of what that should look like, and you would think it would be this grandiose, extravagant show of power. Lightnings would flash and thunders would happen. Trumpets would sound. But it's not what happened. Jesus humbled himself, took on the form of a servant. Jesus dove into self-humiliation to deal with our filth all the way to the cross. And he's saying, you do the same. That's a challenge he gave us, the standard he set, and showing us the full picture of what it means to be Lord and Savior, to be a Christian. It means to follow after him. It's a challenge we have to discuss tonight. And I know this is a very, very popular story, and there's a lot of things that we might bring from our own experience in seeing this in the past. I hope at the same time we open ourselves up to learn from one another and look for things that we have not seen before. Enjoy these discussion groups. It's a good time for growing and developing. I hope at the same time you think about your Christianity. We're on the 9th lesson of these, and they've been a tremendous benefit to me, and I hope they have been to you as well. I hope your faith is challenged and that you're growing. But if it's not, take action and do something about it. Jesus says here, if you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. Right now, right here, there's a chance to do, to obey. If that means you need to repent, do it. You'll be blessed if you do that. If it means you need to become a Christian, do it. You will be blessed in becoming a Christian. If you need to lay aside things that are holding you back in your faith, do that right now, right here. If there's any way that we can assist, let us know as we stand and as we sing.